All right, we are ready to begin. Hello, everyone. I am Kimberly Ryan, the Associate Director of the Career Services Office at Florida Tech. We're going to go over today how to get ready for the career fair. So we have a lot of career fairs coming up. You'll notice that some are in person, some are online. Our school is offering 3 fairs this semester in the spring. We then, of course, will offer more in the fall. But for spring, we have 3 that our office manages. Now, we also post career fairs, not just for our school. There's many other fairs actually today going on. There's a fair at the Melbourne Airport. So if there's local fairs in our community or other fairs that students are eligible to attend, such as partner, we do have some partner schools that we do have students interchange with. We would post all of those in Handshake. So if you want to know what are the upcoming fairs, when are they, those are going to be posted in Handshake, and we'll go over that process and how to register. External fairs, like I said, if they're not run by our school, may have different policies and how they'd like you to sign up. For ours, everything will be through Handshake. So let's dive in and get started. We're going to talk about what exactly is a career fair. Just want to talk about some common misunderstandings. Some people kind of treat job fairs like a job store. I mean, they're just hiring out, handing out positions. And yes, while their goal there is to meet applicants and hopefully meet some good hires, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all hiring on the spot, or even some of them immediately for that matter. Some of them are actually collecting information for their hiring that will start in summer. Some might actually be, doing hiring in a couple months. So it just depends on the company. So beware when you go to a fair to view it as a good networking opportunity. So that's where you're making contacts and you're meeting people. So when you go there, you want to pay attention to who you're talking to, what their name is. Most people will have their name badge on if it's in person. If it's virtual, you should see their name on the screen, usually in the corner like mine is. You want to pay attention to those and start building up those network of who have I met with, who have I talked to. That way, when you come back, when they tell you to apply in a few months, or for instance, if it's later on in another semester, you're ready to do so. Now, there are some, yes, that will be hiring very soon in the near future, or they might be lining up interviews within the next day. We do have employers that come and they are looking to hire right now. So for those, you really want to, of course, and you don't know who, when you first introduce yourself, you don't know who is in that market to hire right now versus later. So you treat all of them the same as if you are being screened for a position. So this is your first meeting. It's not a formal interview, but it is a casual meeting for them to get to know you, and they will use that as part of their process. So if a recruiter is talking with you and they see that you meet the qualifications, they will probably ask you some questions about the position, about your skills, to see if you're a good fit and a good match for their company. So treat it like as if you are being scrutinized, because you are. So they are checking out how you would fit with them. Now, in very rare circumstances, we have had employers on the spot ask to interview you, that day, or even, somewhere else on campus, that day. So that can happen as well. So beware, you want to be on your best, you want to put your best self forward. So we're going to talk about that, of how can we do that. So no matter what type of fair you go to, you need a resume. That is the bare minimum. You want to have your resume with you. If you are in person, you're going to have multiple copies. If you are in a virtual setting, you're going to want to make sure that you have it available to share your screen, to upload either to the chat box. And in the case of our fairs, which are all on Handshake, they can pull your resume through your profile. So you're going to want to make sure your profile is really set up really nicely to reflect who you are, what your skills are, but you want to have your resume attached in the document section. So if you're not sure, where do I upload my resume in Handshake? It is in the document section in the top right, and you're going to need to set that resume to visible. Okay, you have the opportunity to make it private. If you've made your resumes private, unfortunately, the employer can't pull it. So you want to make sure it's set to public, or else they'll miss out on that. And you don't want them to do that if you spent so much time making your resume, your application tool. So If you haven't made a resume or you have not had it reviewed, this is the time I highly recommend you do so before you go to fairs. Okay, the resume, other than meeting, them in person, that is the most important step because that's how they screen you on paper first to see, okay, you match the qualifications and you do that through your resume. We have here listed the things that need to be on your resume. We understand not everyone has paid experience. You might not have done any volunteering or association. So certain things may not apply to you, but we want to try to see what we can show off about yourself. So if you're not sure, you don't know what to put, make an appointment with us and we will help you put together your resume. All right, so if you got your resume together, you have that all ready to go, you've printed several copies to bring with you to the fair, or you've had it uploaded on your profile and it's public. The next step is to research who is coming to the fair. Okay, and each of our fairs, they list an employer's attending section. So when you click on the event, you'll see a whole section that says who's coming. You're going to want to click on that and find out who, what companies are going to be there. And we have a little image here to the right that shows exactly what it looks like in Handshake, so that if you see that company, you can look at their details, you can click on their website. They all have blue hyperlinks to link right to their website. And so if that's what you're doing, you're going to want to go find out what's their latest news that they have listed on their website. What are their latest projects that they're doing listed on their website? And if you really want to go the extra mile, find out what's their company mission. What are they about? What makes them motivated? Why are they in business? Those are all things that would be helpful for a conversation when you talk with them. So of course, you're going to ask them about, hiring steps, what positions, would be a good fit for you. But other things that show off your interests, that you really spent time digging into this company, you know what they're about. You could even talk about your passions and how they match the company's mission. That really makes you stand out. A recruiter is going to think, wow, this person really would like to work with our company. This is something that they're doing because they've thought a lot about it, not because they just showed up and randomly saw our name. Okay, so that's how you're going to really stand out with them. LinkedIn is also a really good resource. We'll talk later about how you can follow up with these people on LinkedIn, but you should be on that site. It is a social platform for professionals and businesses. So that's quickly becoming the norm now, to network and follow up with your contacts through that site. So if you haven't already, I would make a LinkedIn account and start researching their business profiles on LinkedIn, and then you'll be ready to follow up with them after. So what do you have to do in terms of dress code for fairs? And each fair may be a little different. Some are more relaxed than others, but the bare minimum that we recommend for all fairs is what's called business casual. Okay, business casual just means that you are wearing some sort of professional shirt and slacks. Women often have, skirt options, other things like that, but it needs to be office appropriate. Polos are fine, khakis are fine, basically no jeans, no t-shirts. So business casual, you would not wear those. I know in Florida it's tempting to wear shorts or things that are very short, but no, even if it's hot outside, you still should opt for trousers. As far as virtual, a lot of students ask, well, do I have to dress up if I'm going to be on camera? What's the point? They're not going to see all of me, so I don't have to, right? No, you really do want to put in the effort to look good on camera as well. It is true, you could have just put on that blazer or the, button-up shirt and that's all they'd see. So you don't have to worry about, if you're wearing jeans, and that's true. However, we all know that sometimes there's emergencies, things come up, you may have to stand up, move around, go grab something, and it's happened more times than people have thought it would, but where they do see, if you are moving around, what you're wearing in your entire outfit. So just to be prepared, I would still wear, a good pair of slacks, have a nice business professional shirt on, and of course, to go the extra mile, even on camera, if you wear a suit or a suit jacket, it really shows that this is something that you are putting effort into, that this is important to you. That's what that conveys. Your clothes convey meaning. So if you're showing that I am dressing up, it really means I want to make this a good meeting. I want to have the best first impression. And employers will always look well on that. Even if the employer shows up, and oftentimes they do, they're in a polo or in their company t-shirt. The fact is you're the one getting scrutinized, not them. So yes, dressing above and beyond is always something that can help you. Moving on to not just dress, but your image overall. I talked about first impressions and what does that, how does that influence someone that you're interviewing with, or in this case, just someone you're networking with. And it is true, when you first meet someone, people already form, it's human nature, they form opinions about you and they form judgments. And that is the human nature. And so when you are meeting someone for a job, you don't want them to think about anything about your image. You want them to think about your qualifications, right? Your skills. It shouldn't be about the way you look. It should be about the skill base, right? Well, while employers, that's their goal, they can, like I say, make inferences. They only have a couple minutes usually with each student to talk. So they're going to make judgments of who do they think is the most reliable person? Who is the person that's trustworthy? Who is the person that is going to show up to their job day after day? You know, and so they make judgments. Oftentimes it's linked with your first impression. It's linked with appearance because they don't know you yet. They don't know all those things about you. So I have a continuum here on the screen that kind of shows you traditional versus alternative. All right, now culturally and based on our time period we're in, this continuum can move across the board all the time. It really depends on who's hiring you, what their biases are, what type of company or industry they're in. It really depends. However, I will tell you, typically banking, finance, and a lot of business professions prefer highly traditional images. And by that, it's because they want you to represent their company. Oftentimes in those positions, you're talking with their customers face to face, and you are being a representative and a face for their company. And for that reason, typically, traditional is the safest route to go. Now, when you're interviewing, we do recommend, again, going more traditional is safer. And getting to know the company and the cultures and their values will help you determine if it's a good fit for you and what you want your everyday, obviously, life to look like. But in terms of traditional and making the best impression, back in the day, you'll notice on the people on the far left, for women having your hair pulled back and for men having short hair with no facial hair, that was the standard across the board for almost every industry. It was considered a business look for both men and women to have that style. Nowadays, we've moved farther down the continuum where if you have nicely groomed hair that's down, or for men, a short or well-kept, facial hair, that's pretty standard now too. Most people don't look any differently on people based on that. It's become more standardized. However, as you move down the continuum, these other looks, things like having more, accessories, having unnatural hair colors, unnatural makeup colors, having tattoos, having piercings, having extra long beard, having extra long hair if you're a man. There's many things that nowadays, it really does depend who you're talking to. So again, it's your first impression. Get to know the company, the values, who they are, and don't let them make judgments of you yet. Find out about their company so you can make your judgments. And that's always, again, the safest option. If you do have tattoos or piercings, some people say, well, what should I do then? Do I have to cover them up? Like I said, it's a continuum for many people, and some of the recruiters coming, they have these things too. So it doesn't apply to every company, but for instance, if you have a large piercing, you may not want to put it on display for your interview. If you have tattoos that can be covered with the shirt for your first meeting until you get to know what they're like, I'd recommend, yes, wearing that. If it's something though that you can't cover, that's unfortunately now something that they hopefully have to make the best determination about you and not whatever that is at this point, because you can't. But anything else, again, you have the power to make the move now. So again, being safer may help you in the long run. As far as how do you introduce yourself now? Okay, we talked about getting ready, your image, your resume. Now is the point where you want to be practicing your introduction. How are you going to introduce yourself to them? You've researched the company, so you have some good questions about the company. But again, think of this as your sales pitch. Some people call it the elevator pitch because it's short. about the length of an elevator ride is 30 seconds. And that's about how long your introduction should be to kind of just introduce who you are. And this is where you want to tell your best, attributes to get them interested in. So always start off with, what are you studying? Okay, what maybe school year you are would be helpful too, such as, are you a master's student, your undergrad, you sophomore, junior? Those things would be helpful. Now talk to them about, what are your strengths? What are your best projects maybe? What are you working on right now? If you haven't completed anything, or you're saying, I'm not really quite sure, what are my top skills? You could talk about what you're doing right now. What are you studying right now in school? And then you could talk to them about your future career goals, what you're looking into. Now, some students say, I don't really know yet some of those things. I'm still exploring what I'm looking at. And that's okay too. As long as you're well thought out and it shows that you've put some good thought into it, you can mention, right now I'm exploring and comparing the differences between mechanical and aerospace engineering. I'm looking at both fields to see which would be the best fit. And so those types of things show that you're really assessing yourself and what you'll be good at. So that's all right too. However, if you say, I have no idea what I want to do, employers are going to question exactly what you're looking for from them. So again, you want to make it clear that you are thinking about where you want to be and what you want to do. We have some example statements here. If you're curious, what could an introduction look like? Here we have, 2 students, one in computer science, one in finance, both of them talking about their courses they're taking, what skills they know. They talk one about what their future things that they're working on, certifications. Another one talks about something they do in their spare time because it's related. So you can talk about your clubs, associations, or other things, but particularly, if you have independent projects, we call that, or things you do on your own that's related to your field, tell them that. They really like to see someone who's passionate about what they do in their field. So that really shows them, yeah, you really are interested in this field and this is what you'd like to do. So these are just some examples. You should start practicing now. How am I going to introduce myself and what am I going to say about myself? Common pitfalls. So these are all statements or things that we have actually heard people say at the fair or to employers. Some employers have come and told us, these things were said to them. These are all on the left-hand side, what we would call turnoffs, okay? It makes a employer think, that you're not there for the right reasons, okay? Or you don't yet understand, what you're looking for. So you don't want to give that type of impression. We already talked about, if you don't really know what you want to do, you can still frame it in a way to show off that you're researching right now, or you're doing some investigation. If you don't have much experience, instead of just blurting out, hey, I don't really have experience, I don't know what I'm doing, why don't you talk about what you're growing in now in terms of your courses or what you will be doing, okay? Maybe you're a freshman right now, maybe you're a sophomore and you haven't taken any of your core courses. Well, talk about which ones you're most looking forward to. You can let them know, well, I haven't started, my key courses yet, but upcoming, I will be taking fundamentals of, and put whatever it is that you're going to be starting. So it shows that you're already on track. If you're really worried about right now, I know with COVID, there's a lot of things going on right now. And this is a tough subject of knowing what is appropriate and what is not, what is and is not appropriate. In terms of framing yourself, you always want to sound positive, even though in this world, right, we have a lot of negativity. There's been a lot of hard things happening. Framing yourself to show that you can overcome adversity is always a good thing to show off to an employer right at the start. So instead of framing things in a negative way, but you can still ask your questions. I'm not saying don't ask your questions, but you're going to frame it in a more of a positive way. So for instance, how are you keeping workers safe at this time? Based on all the new mandates coming out, does your company have a position on that? Is there anything I need to know of in terms of COVID protocols? Those are all very nice, open-ended ways of asking it without giving a negative interpretation, and you let them tell you what's going on with their company. So always ask it in a positive way. In terms of, needing a job, things like that, you always want to frame things going back to a positive way instead of saying, hey, I really need to get a job. I can't pay my bills right now. Anything would be good. I don't even care what I'm going to get. That again tells an employer, maybe someone who's not going to stick around very long. They're here just for a paycheck. They won't be fulfilled. So instead of saying it that way, you can talk about, I'm very motivated to work. I'd like to start. I can start as soon as possible. That's a much more positive way of saying that. International students, any international students, you're going to want to be educated before you talk to employer about what the visa process is. Some employers are very well aware of the whole legal aspect of this, but many are not, particularly small employers. They don't understand how it works, and they may be open to it, but they don't know, what it will take. So instead of going up to them and going and asking them, what do I need to do, or I'm not really sure if I can work in America or not. Rather, let's frame it in a way that shows you've been educated on the topic. If you know the steps, you would know that on your academic visa, you're here right now. You can actually do curricular practical training, CPT, while you're in school. So you can let them know, sell that about yourself. Say, yes, I can work off campus. You don't need to sponsor me right now. I'm just using CPT. You can let them know later on, after I graduate, I'll need a sponsorship. Is that something your company has done before? That's a nice way of asking it. So start being educated on that. If you don't know much about it yet, talk to the ISSS office, or you could stop by and talk to us. That way you feel confident talking to an employer if they ask questions about it. In terms of anyone that is sent to the fair, maybe because you have an academic assignment or a parent or someone told you to go, it is never good to tell the employer that's why you're there. It really makes it sound like you have no interest in being there and you were forced to. You never want to give that impression off. So again, always talk about what you want to learn. Ask them open-ended questions. You don't need to, again, tell them anything negative. As far as, let's move on to the next part, what is coming up with our virtual fairs? I will start off by saying tomorrow is the in-person fair for civil engineering and construction management. That will be here on our campus in the gym from 1 to 4 p.m. However, next week, February 2nd, that is when we're having the virtual fair for all majors. You do need to sign up in Handshake and hit the registration button, and then you will be able to click on the appointments. All right, many employers already have added their appointments. Some are still adding slots, so you may see some more things open up. But for right now, you could click either on one-on-one appointments, which are 10 minutes long, or you can join and sign up to join a group session. And just because it's a group session, don't think you can wait and sign up later. You still want to sign up now because some of those group sessions are limited to 50 students. So you would want to make sure you go in and register now so that you are booked for that time and that group session. If for some reason you can't make it or you can't go to that session, please remove it. You can cancel the session, remove it. That way other students can get in. But you do have to go to the fair through our events, click on register, and then view all the employer sessions to be able to get to that page. At the end, I will show you that if anyone has questions on that. Some people think, well, for a virtual fair, I don't really have to prep that much. I can just show up, roll out of bed. It's probably easier than in person, right? No, actually, you have to prepare a lot more ahead of time for virtual because like we talked about, you have to make sure that your resume is loaded, your profile is ready to go. But all these other factors of making sure that you've checked your camera, your lighting. I know we've been in a virtual world for a while now. However, I've seen many students on their beds. I've seen them walking around with me while they're on appointments. I've seen them do all sorts of things that would not be appropriate for a career fair. So for a career fair, you need to find a quiet space with a clean background in a room beforehand. Make sure everything's good to go. One tip that a lot of students forget about is when you name your resume file, particularly the ones that you've loaded in Handshake, put your name on it. So in this case, I put K Ryan. And if you have multiple types of resumes, you can name the resume so you know who it's for. If it's a sales resume, is it a marketing resume? Is it for business, administration, or is it admin? You can have multiple names. That way, when you give it to them, the employer already knows whose it is and what's it for. A lot of people I've seen don't put file names or they just put resume. You're going to get lost in a huge virtual list. If it just says resume, you want to have your name somewhere on that file. In terms of your setup, I kind of already touched upon that. Yes, you do need a quiet space, but also things like lighting are important. I see a lot of people who have like windows or lights behind them and no light in front of them. That's going to make your face very dark. So you're going to want to make sure you have good lighting in front of you. Don't have people around, friends, family, even pets. It's not for a career fair or an interview setting. So find a quiet room, close the door so that nobody's coming in or out. You also want to make sure you have a clean background. So a lot of people put virtual backgrounds, kind of what I have on right now. That is totally fine. It just needs to be something that's not too busy. So in the example we have, it's just way too busy. It's, you know, unless this person was going into video gaming, I would say it's not relevant. So we wouldn't put that on. If you have something where you want to put a clean background like this and put your name on it or put an industry photo, that is okay as long as it's a clean background. Beware of what photos, if you do choose to that, what it is, because you may put actually a competitor to the person you're meeting with. So a competitor's photo or a competing company, and that might not be a good impression. So always safest route would just be a clean wall or a plain background. Make sure your head is in full view, that I'm not really low. My head is not way too high off the screen. No up the nose shots. I cannot tell you how many videos look just like this because they're holding the phone below them or the camera is tilted up. So the camera height is important. Do not do any head shots like this down or up. Okay, I've seen so many of those. So it's, even though it sounds silly, it happens all the time. All right, so if you're not sure what you look like on camera, do a test run beforehand. In terms of meeting virtually, I actually think it's harder because unlike in person where you could read more about the person, how they're standing, where they are, getting a sense of all those things, all you get is a headshot and you can't really see much more. Obviously, you hear them, which is great, and now you can see their facial cues, but it's still kind of hard. So what you're going to want to do to make a good impression is focus on a positive facial, mannerism, or you're posing. Smiling does help. You don't have to be over the top. You don't want to be someone who seems inappropriate in terms of too much emotion, but showing positivity and that you're happy to meet with them, you're excited to meet with them is something that's going to help them open up and also have a good impression. If you're really quiet and you look like this and you look like you're really worried, that does not give a good impression. And I don't think anyone purposely does that, but I don't think people sometimes realize what they look like to other people. I have seen so many students also who just woke up, okay? And I can tell if you just woke up and your eyes are half shut, you look disheveled, your hair hasn't been brushed maybe, or you're having difficulty talking. That's not good. So you want to make sure you're fully awake, you look like you're paying attention, and some ways to show enthusiasm. We have some examples here. Okay, it's great to virtually meet you. I'm so glad that we could meet today. I know that you have a lot of appointments, or I know it must be busy. Those are all things that show that you recognize the person and their time. It makes them feel more at ease as well. If you want to wave hello or goodbye, that's okay, as long as you do a single hey, hi, how are you? That's fine. Being way too much like this, too much, that's a little too much energy, but just a single wave is fine. Again, clear, confident voice. If you're not sure, you've never done this event, record yourself. Use your phone, record yourself doing your pitch, for instance, and see, can I understand myself? Am I mumbling? Am I speaking confidently? And you can review and kind of judge yourself if you give yourself the recording beforehand. All right, the dreaded technical problems. Unfortunately, when it comes to virtual fairs, this can be a possibility. I know today on campus, we've had a lot of internet outages. I'm not sure if any of you guys have experienced that, but it does happen. Unfortunately, if we do have any internet outages next week, it may mean that you could try to find anywhere else on campus that's not dealing with that issue, or off campus, for instance. I don't know if some of you guys, if you have your mobile phones and you can use your data, that is an option as well if you have a problem with the internet. The library too, just so you know, they operate off of our Ethernet system or our landline. So if the Wi-Fi, which is what the issue is today, the Wi-Fi is out, I would recommend you immediately go to a place like the library or somewhere else where you can get access to a working port. And most of the places in the library, if you go to the front desk, you could find somewhere you could even just plug in your laptop. So that's something that's harder to work around. More common is, maybe your camera's glitching, your microphone's not working. It could be the opposite way around. The recruiter's mic or something is not working. You're not able to connect to the room. If there's any of those issues, usually the chat box feature is available. So if that is the case, you can use that chat box and you can let them know, yes, I'd like to talk with you. Unfortunately, I'm having some technical difficulties. Can I give you a call? Can I email you? You can ask them any one of those types of questions. Excuse that. If you can't reach them, you don't have a chat box, okay, there's two other options. You can email us directly and we'll try to work on your situation, or within the fair, there's going to be a help desk room. Now, in the help desk room, you'll be able to talk to one of our staff to kind of walk you through any of the issue and help you liaison with the employer if the employer is having problems. All right, so following up after the fair, very important that you follow up. You can connect with them. The most common way to connect with them now, like I mentioned earlier, is LinkedIn. Okay, you're going to write down their name when you meet them. So you remember who you talk with. You're probably going to talk with several people. So it'd be good you write down their names so you remember. You're then going to find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, send them a message, and thank them for their time. That is the bare minimum. If you want to go above and beyond, ask the recruiter why you're talking to them. What's the best way to follow up with them? And some of them are happy to give their phone or their email. And if that's the case, that is even better. Some recruiters will not. They're going to say, oh, you can check our website or go on LinkedIn. Those are usually the ways that are pretty common. So if that's the case, you're going to want to, just follow those steps. However, no matter which way, okay, even if they don't, if you forget to ask, for instance, or they don't tell you which way to follow up, it is always good just to send a thank you if you can. And like I said, almost every recruiter coming will have a LinkedIn account, so it's pretty guaranteed. LinkedIn is becoming a very friendly place where they expect to get messaged by you. And so this is a safe way to do it versus calling nowadays. Typically, we don't recommend cold calling unless they've given you permission. Even emailing nowadays, while that is considered less intrusive than phone call, again, some people may not be willing to give that out. So be aware of that. However, if you want to follow up, here's a professional format. Always go the more formal route to start with, unless you have an established relationship with this person. Formal is always best. So you could talk about what, jog their memory about whatever topic you talk with them about. Perhaps it's a specific position. You want to list that right there. They've probably talked to hundreds of people and talks about hundreds of openings, and they're not going to remember each and every one in your case. So you want to tell them your name and what position you applied for or what position that you're going to apply for so that they can connect you with that. Saves them time. If you have on LinkedIn, your profile is already attached to your account, so they don't need to do any more further research. It's all right there for them. As far as following up, so further help, if you need to have some help with going through, okay, we talked already about resumes, but if you want to have help beyond just fairs is just one way to find a job. There's many ways to go about finding jobs. We actually have an externship program that will be coming up with an announcement made soon during our spring break program. So there's lots of things going on. They will all be posted on Handshake. So if you need to link to Handshake, I do have the link here. And then all of our office information if you want to reach out to us. But I want to stop here so that I give you guys some time for questions. And then, based on your interest, let me know, do you want me to show you the Handshake platform and how to register? I'm not sure if anyone has that interest. If you are interested in seeing that, you can use the raise hand button below or just put in the chat box if you'd like. Let me know, do you want to see the Handshake platform? All right, I'm not.
Hi,
Okay,
may you please go over the Handshake platform?
sure.
And I also have a question. You said not all companies during Career Expo will be hiring at the moment. So
Mhm.
how will we know that which companies are hiring and which are not?
So great question. I would first research the company ahead of time, like we talked about. So you can go on their website and see if they have any jobs posted. So that will be helpful. For a lot of companies, though, for instance, if you're looking for internships, they may not have posted everything. So it's not necessarily particularly internships. So it's not necessarily a foolproof way, but that's one way. Two is when you talk with them, you want to have an open-ended conversation, let them know you've checked out their website. If you didn't see any internships, for instance, you might let them know, oh, I did browse your website. I didn't see any internships posted. I wanted to ask, is there any openings coming up in the future, or where should I look? So you're always going to ask them questions. They know you're going to ask them about what's open or not. And that's how you're going to have to talk with them. Some of them are very forthcoming in that they're going to tell you right away, we have positions coming up, or they'll let you know they're coming up soon. And due to the pandemic now and hiring being a little different, some of them will even tell you, because of the pandemic, we will be, freezing hiring until, April or something like that. Now, we're more in a job seekers market right now. So I would suspect at this particular fair is coming up in the next few months, everybody is going to be hiring because most places are in need of workers, pretty high need. So I don't expect there are going to be a lot of people who are on freezes, but they may have limitations of when things get posted still. So those are good questions. You're going to have to ask them and let them know and say, I'm interested to see what current openings, that's a nice way of saying it. Do you have any positions that are currently open, or, will there be more postings, around the time of graduation? Ask them what their posting schedule is like. That's a nice way of saying it too.
Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. I will, yes, I'll show you the Handshake platform now. So let me share that. So we'll look to show you how to see, let's see if I have the right. Are you guys seeing the Handshake platform right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So here we have our events. How I got to this page was once you're in Handshake, you're going to hit the events tab right here. Then you're going to scroll down and see we have a lot of events, not just fairs coming up, but if you want to see just fairs, you could click career fair, or you could go through the list, because coming up we already have the virtual at the top, but I'll hit career fair right here. So that way you can see the 3 coming up for our school. Virtual is next week, but tomorrow, so if you're interested in tomorrow's, if you're in this major, this is a more simple one because it's in person. So you're not going to need to sign up in terms of sessions. You can see who's coming where it says see more employers. So we talked about doing some research. You can see everyone who's coming here, quite a few. There's some filters on the side. So if you wanted to, for instance, you're international, you want to see if they accept OPT, CPT. That's a really nice filter. Now I could see who's there. Do you want to get sponsored after you graduate? Now we can see the list of companies there for international. So good list filters on the side to find companies that will work for you. Because it's, like I said, in person, we'll go all the way back, see if we can go back to events. You don't need to, other than just doing the initial sign up, you don't need to do any sessions, things like that. This fair is virtual. So this is the one that is all going to be on Handshake. You will be meeting in a video platform, much like this, but it's not going to be Zoom. It's going to be right in the Handshake system. So you could see right here, we have our career fair details. It talks about what the sessions will be, but you can see the full list of employers by hitting show all employers here. But where it says your schedule, if I had signed up and had any sessions, they'd be here. If you want to see who has available sessions right now, you can go through and sign up. So where it says register, I would click that. It'll then take me to view employer sessions, which is basically the same page I'm on now. So if you wanted to get back to that page, that's all you'd have to do. You could see, for instance, this company only has a group session, only one available right now. So before it fills up, I would be checking now to see what's available. This company, same thing, they're doing all group sessions versus you'll want to see quite a few lately are doing more of the group ones because I think they want to reach more people at a time. So these are all group ones too. So let's go through and I'm going to see if we can find one that has individual. Okay, so here we have a company, they're doing both. They're doing a group session and one-on-one. And if I click their one-on-one sessions, we'll open that up. You can see they have a lot of times with different recruiters. So you can pick the time and the recruiter that you're going to meet with. And so whichever time slot I pick, and so I'm going to scroll back up and I'll pick, for instance, say I decided to meet with this person at 3. When I click that and hit confirm, it's going to say, okay, good, you have confirmed your session. If you wanted to add the resume beforehand so that it's not even, they don't even have to find it, they don't have to go to your profile, you could do that. If you want to know, how do I add my resume, where should it be? You could click add there and it's going to ask you for your documents. I talked about uploading documents. It's going to be actually under your name tab there and hit my documents. So you could have multiple resumes on there ready to go. Now that I've made an appointment, it's going to be here on the schedule that I have. So you'll notice how this join video is grayed out. It's too far in advance, so you can't join yet. But 5 minutes before an appointment, this will turn blue. And that's all you have to do is hit join video. And it's going to be in a platform very similar to this where you have your mic and your camera set up. So make sure everything's, of course, like we talked about, set up so that they can see you very well. And that's it. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple as far as how the platform will work. You cannot double book. So for instance, I can't make another appointment at 3, but now I could go and find other appointments throughout the day that are at different times. So if I want to meet with more employers, I can go search for them now. All right, so does that answer your questions? Anyone else? If you could use, you can turn on your mic, or if you want to use that chat box. Any questions about the sign up process or anything else related to the fairs?
I have another question for the career fairs. I feel like they're posted a bit too late.
In terms of like hiring?
Yeah, so every time we have a virtual or in-person career fairs, I feel like they're not alerted earlier on. I feel like it's a week before the career fair is there, so I don't think there's enough preparations to do.
Okay, so more announcement, you mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, we do try to send this out through our channels, either through Handshake and Engage. Actually, it gets posted on Engage pretty early. Typically, it is true. We usually start promoting it usually around 2 weeks in advance. And the reason for that is a lot of students, if you do it too early, you know, they don't remember what date it was, or they're not aware, that's too far in advance, basically. But I like your feedback. We'll definitely share that. I'll share that with the employer relations coordinator to let them know. You know, if you want more announcement, or what way, I guess, do you find is best? Because email, sometimes we have a lot of students that say they don't read their email, and we do try through email. We put posters around campus, so all the fair flyers have been put up since about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And then we also contact the departments, faculty, things like that. Is there a different way or a better way that you typically get your media, or how you'd like to get the announcement?
I'm not worried about how they alert us. I'm just worried about that there's not enough time before they let us know that there's a fair.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I'll share that feedback to see that if we can start doing it earlier on. Are you thinking like a month in advance would be a good enough time for you, or what type?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious the time period.
Are there fixed dates for each type of fairs?
It does get posted. Usually, for instance, they are posted pretty early in Handshake, but you're right. If you're not in Handshake, you know, you might not have seen them, but these ones, for instance, got posted in December on Handshake. We typically are only able to post them or get the date scheduled about 2 to 3 months in advance because of space restrictions. So no, it's not the same day every semester, but it is usually always like about a month into the semester, if that makes sense. We typically, every fair in the fall, for instance, usually falls in the end of September or early October. And then fairs for the spring usually are end of January, early February.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. But yes, fall, spring. We also, like I said, if there are any external fairs, we do put them out. You know, here, I think so here's the job fair for Melbourne Airport. So it's not our fair, but another, you know, company was putting that on. If we do have any other fairs coming up, we post them. I think we had one more. I'm just looking to see. I think it might have passed, but another ORISE science company had a fair as well. This one though here, Amazon, they're doing a student program fair. So that's run exclusively by Amazon. So there's some others out there that are coming up later in this, you know, later on. This one I will say, I don't know why they put it all the way to the bottom because that's actually tomorrow. So that one's coming up pretty soon. We do send at the beginning of the week an email kind of reminder with all the events coming up for the week, just so people don't forget about them too. All right, any other questions? Use that chat box or use your mic. All right, I think it sounds like we've answered everything. Hopefully that means we provided good information and that you feel confident on what's coming up for the fair. If you do for any reason have future questions though, feel free to send us an email at career@fit.edu, or you can pop into Handshake and make an appointment with us. Since I already have Handshake open, I'm going to show you where that is under the Career Center. And I think, Pedro, are you asking a question? You can go ahead. Maybe it wasn't a question. Maybe you're giving me a high five. If you had a question, you can use that chat box, like I said, or just turn your mic on. Appointments though, right here under the Career Center, I went straight to appointments, schedule a new one, and this is how you can meet. We have online appointments right now, but lots of different types of online appointments that you can meet with a counselor. All right, question we had about the career fair. Should I bring a printed resume? Yes, if it's in person. So if it's in person, we talked about you should have multiple copies, enough to give to every employer that you want to talk to. So sometimes I've seen students bring like 4 or 5 resumes and think that's great, that's plenty. And then they go end up talking to 10 employers. Well, if that's the case, half of them are not going to get a resume. And I could tell you an employer expects you to bring your resume. Some of them will tell you they don't take paper anymore. You know, they'd rather you just go through their online platform, and they'll tell you they don't need to take the paper, but there's still a lot, I'd say over half of employers that expect a paper copy, and just the fact that you're prepared with a paper copy looks good. So if they ask you, and they've come and told us, you know, we asked a student for their resume and they told us they ran out or they didn't bring them. And in their mind, that looks like you didn't prepare, or they weren't important enough to have a copy. You know, because you didn't think of a copy for them. So that does look bad on you. So if you want to make a good impression, have extras, you know, more than you think you would need, just in case. I've actually seen students go and run the day of to the library across the street and go print resumes because recruiters said they needed their resume to be considered and they didn't bring one, so they had to run and go print it. So you don't want that impression. You want to already be prepared and come with extras. You know, it's really not that expensive to print print them out either at the copy center or the library. You can print them out. All right. Any other questions? All right. I think that's the end we've reached. You guys all have a good rest of your day, and we do hope to see you at our fairs. All right. Bye-bye.